Hi, everybody. This is Lori, and I am the founder and CEO of Inclusivity, and our company is all about justice and kindness. And this is our podcast. And today we're lucky enough to be interviewing Joe Charley, who is a singer-songwriter and actor and model. And I originally met Joe when he was part of Kids Color Fashion at the Mall of America, Crayola World, where he was teaching the children who were modeling, how to model their clothing and how to walk down the runway. And he also performed a song. And then recently, Joe Charley has also done some modeling for us. So, Joe Charley, thank you so much for being here. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
So I wanted to start by just asking you sort of how did you begin to be a creative person? How did you sort of start?
I always like to start off with the story of my birth story. So my mom was in the hospital. I didn't have a name for about a month. And the commercial for Donny Osmond, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat came on. And my mom, she said she knew that was going to be my name. So from birth, I've kind of had that juice with it, but it was performing at a lot of my mom's and my dad's corporate functions, at a lot of school functions, a lot of community things, and getting old enough to sign my first contract when I was 15 and just be working from there to being in my first major feature film when I was 18, and we got a Nollywood Oscar for that. So it's just been growing ever since. But I haven't really thought about it in terms of accomplishment and achievement. But now that I'm older, I look back and I see like I've done a lot. So it's kind of time that I start spreading the seeds and getting that information out so that I can grow and do more. But you have to look back sometimes in order to go forward. So that's kind of how we met at the fashion show. I love being able to teach. I love being able to show them what I see and what I know, because I don't see that kind of competition. I can't wait for them to get older and take my spot. Like, yes, let's do it. Like, now you can continue. That's what I feel like has been done for me.
So you like to encourage people to come up and do their own things.
Oh, of course. Oh, of course. I try to create spaces comfortably enough so that people feel safe enough to do that.
Okay. So Joe Charley, you said you performed at your mom and dad's, like their business meetings and things. Tell me a little bit more about that, because that sounds pretty interesting.
Okay, my mom is an educator. She actually, what has been told to me, was the first African American lady to graduate from one of their first programs in St. Cloud State University. So since then, we've been performing at a lot of her either corporate functions or school functions at where she was teaching. So I performed at almost all of the high school, middle schools, elementary schools in the state of Minnesota. Just based on the fact that, or in the Midwest, I should say, just based on the fact that my mom was teaching there.
Okay.
I was able to use that to get experience and to gain more confidence. And then I started doing more plays, and I got more, I would say my more live experience came from the plays that I did in school and with theater companies.
Okay. Were your siblings, how many brothers and sisters do you have, Joe Charley?
My mother in total has 9.
Okay. And were they all singing and performing as well?
Yes, I was the only one who actually wanted to. The rest of them were, and well, back in the day, this was like the late 90s, early 2000s. So we were young at the time. These were like kid songs that we learned from church or from school. So we were performing and just doing things like that. And then my mom saw potential in that, kind of helped us grow from that. But then we grew old enough, and some of them do sports. And my sister actually just graduated and is going to become a chemical officer with the Army. So we have our own different passions now. I just stuck to dreaming, and I don't know, I kind of like the clouds a little bit.
Yeah. So you said you signed your first contract at 15. Is that what you said?
Yes, my first modeling contract.
Okay. And how did you come to do that? So what was the process that brought you there?
So what I tell my students, I also teach at John Casablanca's Modeling and Talent or Modeling and Talent School, I should say. I'm sorry. What I tell my students there is that I came home from school one day, and I was at the time Tyra Banks' show. Her talk show was on TV, and she was talking about her journey. what she wanted, how much she had to work for it. And she said that she was 17 when she was signed and when she started working. And I was like, okay, I'm not quite 17, so I have a few years. So I kind of started thinking about what did I want? Could I do something like that? So I wrote actually the director of Meredith Talent Agency. At the time, it was Stacey Meredith. And I told her, look, I'm young. I know you don't really hire talent this young, but I'm willing to work and I really want this. I'm dedicated. And she brought me up for a press meeting with my brother. Signed that day, and the rest is kind of history. I did Foot Locker for the next 3 years. I've done Calvin Klein shoots and Target and Jostens and Tamar Anderson, and it's been a whirlwind. I've done a lot.
And
I,
oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I'm grateful for the experience, but I'm old enough now to see my passion is music. I've always loved the music side of it. I'm that kind of creator. So I have a lot of modeling experience, but that's where you saw me. I gave the talent that I had, so I taught the children at the talent show, but then I also performed at the intermission. So that was me coming to, establish my brand a little more outside of acting and outside of modeling.
So, Joe Charley, the music, what about acting? Because I know you said you've been in a movie, maybe more than one.
Yeah, so I have been theater acting since 2003. That was when I did my first actual theater show in school, and I've been on stage since. I've done professional theater since about the start of high school because I went to Main Street School of Performing Arts, and there was just a lot more professional theater opportunities. I actually went to high school for theater, so I focused on that during those years. And at the very end, my senior year of high school, my first movie that I ever did, I was an extra in it, and that was just because I was doing plays in school and around the community, and so that was like 8th grade, and they were like, "Hey, we need some people to fill this scene. Are you available?" And I was like, "Of course." My sisters and my brother are in that movie too, actually, which is weird. Not weird, but it's like, hey, like we're all here, like there's history. And then my senior year of high school, I did Boys Cry. Boys Cry was a movie we shot it here in the state of Minnesota. And that was a movie based upon the relationship between Africans and African Americans in the modern school settings. And how much we see each other, how much we're alike, and how much we're so different, and how much, where our boundaries lie. I felt like that was a great opportunity, a great role, and I'm so grateful for that because that did very well in Nigeria. It did very well in Africa. So we just pressed for that, and I had to delay college for a little bit because we were busy promoting that film. Modeling was doing really well at that time because now modeling was catching up and acting was meeting. So it was a platform to stand on. So I started seeing the traction I was drawing. I haven't stopped working since.
So, Joe Charley, what's next for you? Because I know you've talked about music, but I'm guessing you also have more thoughts about acting. So, what are you most excited about right now?
Right now, honestly, I'm excited about enjoying my family. I'm excited about being a new age. I actually just recently had a birthday. So being a new age and looking back, being able to reflect and see what I've done and connect some of the dots where I can realize and I can honestly say I love acting. I love being able to transform into characters and see how people think and I see how they feel. I love modeling. I love being able to look nice and to create these picturesque pictures. I love being creative. My passion, I love to tell stories though. I love to be able to speak for those who might not have the word or to see or to say what might not be so obvious or might not be so popular. So I think what's coming up for me is me being able to walk in my own truth and being able to speak my stories so that I'm able to help others speak theirs and maybe help them speak theirs too. But taking time to stop and reflect and to appreciate what I have now and kind of regroup and regather.
What would you like to do with your music? First of all, tell us a little bit about your music. What's your inspiration? Sort of how do you define yourself as a musician? How do you label yourself as a musician?
As a musician, I would say I'm a lot stronger. I'm a lot more straightforward. I've been writing music all of my life.
Mhm.
Been writing poetry all of my life. I actually was third in the state of Minnesota for Poetry Out Loud. I've been reciting poetry all of my life. So it kind of transformed into spoken word and transformed into music. I went to college for music just so that I could start matching the lyrics and actually the composition. There's so many details to it, and that's you learn that growing up. It's not all just about dreams. So that's kind of a part of the breakdown process. But
Mhm.
I would describe my music as very honest. It's a very honest look at what it means to be a minority, but not to live a minority. I was never really raised to be a victim or to think of myself as so. But being a Black male, being very honest about that and what comes with that, and all of the intersections that lie with it. So it's an honest look at what it means to be me, myself, and introducing that because I don't think there have been very honest representations so far. So I'm kind of learning what that sounds like too. So I would say if there were a genre, it's kind of like country R&B. And everyone's like, what? How does that even sound? That goes together. Well, I'm from Minnesota. My mother's from Tennessee. Let's start there.
Mhm.
But then the R&B, I think that's where my voice fits. And that's what I grew up around. I grew up in the inner city, and that's a lot of what we listen to, and that's a lot of what we grew up around and what we're familiar with. So that would be the intersection of country and R&B and how it's kind of picking up. And I think with popular music now, how genres are clashing, how they are. And I think people are starting to see like intersectionality as a thing. Like you can be a woman and be strong. You can be a man and be beautiful. There are multiple complexities within an identity. There's not just a black and white. And I think my music explores that. And it starts with the words for me, because I'm a poet first, but then the music, it helps it.
Mhm.
And I like to have fun. And music and songs are typically short. They're like 3 minutes. So I'm
Mhm.
definitely a lot more concise in my music. And it's fun. I like dancers and I like shows. I like to make it a fun show. So it's a lot to think about if you listen to the words, but when you look at it, it's definitely
So, Joe Charley, what was it like growing up in Minnesota?
hard. There's always a dichotomy when you say things when I have to answer questions like that because traveling, I realized I was extremely blessed to be able to go to summer camps, to be able to do things, I know how to swim and how to ride a bike and how to fish and how to rock climb. I know how to do things like that. But living in Minnesota, being a minority in Minnesota, that can also be very difficult. And not being able to actually see yourself represented or have that support that you see so many others do. Overall, I would say I've learned enough to be able to help. I loved it. I wouldn't change anything about it. I love the people. I love the environment. I love the stories. I love the nature of it. I think that's where everyone's like, you're not from Minnesota. Like, you're too cool. Like, there's a lot of, they're like, this. Like, no, that's Minnesota for you. Like, it's just the melting pot of a lot of cool things.
So, Joe Charley, have you been performing your music anywhere yet?
So I've been spot performing music. So I've realized like when it came to acting, I would be more apt to take just any kind of role. When it came to modeling, I would take a lot of different shoots. But when it came to music, I was just a lot more cautious. Only because I realized like I didn't realize at the time that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it so much that I was kind of paralysis. So I've been spot before me, but I think that it's time, I'm giving myself this kind of kick push. So Fashion Week was definitely a big step for me. I'm glad I did that and I got it out of the way. And it was a really huge, like at the Mall of America at that. So I did it. So I performed for a couple of different colleges in the late uh, decade, a couple of different corporate events, but that was like a song or two. I think it's a drop-up project where there's a sufficient amount of songs to be able to perform. And then I think that's the next step of the project.
Okay. So that's exciting. Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
5 years, I would definitely have music to perform. I would have had a tour under my belt, but a major tour. I would like a concert tour, not necessarily a stadium tour yet. I think that's a little far, but a concert tour definitely is doable. Uh, an album, a concert tour, and maybe another endorsement. I want to get a company up and running so that I can produce all of the things that I want to do. It's nice to be able to share it and collaborate, but it's a new decade, and I'm starting to realize my mentors and the guiders before me were literally speaking life to me. So owning my own art, owning my own vision. 5 years, just a little bit closer with an album that has my name, my story in it. Yeah, just a little more me in my art. Not really, it's nice to say Foot Locker, and I've done Calvin Klein. It's nice to get awards for other people's things, but I want something that's mine.
Yeah.
5 years, I can see me.
Yeah. So, Joe Charley, when you're not performing or doing creative work, what do you like to do?
Oh, that's a great question because I had to reinvent that. I spent my childhood and my whole teen years focused. So now in my early 20s, I realized I like to write, I like to read, I like to play The Sims, I like to rest, heavy on The Sims. Mm, and I like board games and card games.
Okay. Any favorite board game or card game?
I actually just learned how to play spades.
Okay. It's a good one.
Doing pretty good on the app. I don't know how I work with other people yet. Board games, the game of life, is really fun. And actually Monopoly. I think Monopoly. I just learned how to play that like 2 years ago too, but I'm actually really good at Monopoly. I don't know if that's a telling thing, but I'm for it.
I think it's all right. Whatever it is, it's you, so it's okay.
Right.
So if you were talking, I mean, you're still very young, but if you were talking to people who were coming up in the business, because you've been doing this for quite a few years, what kind of advice would you give to somebody? What kind of words of wisdom could you share?
Oh, baby, it gets greater later. And the fame comes before the fortune.
The fame comes before the what?
The fortune.
Okay. It's actually a really good way to say that.
But it gets greater later. That's really it. Like you got to stick to it. That's really it. Dream as much as you want to dream, but dreams are hopeless aspirations. You have to believe in something and work for it.
Okay.
It gets greater later.
And is that kind of your philosophy as well?
I've learned to create an outlook with that. I mean, we can get into a different philosophical conversation, but my outlook is that I believe in dreams and I believe people should be creative with it because I am. And that's kind of why I like to play The Sims because I can do and be whoever as crazy as I can in however many different ways. But I also believe in planning and I also believe in realistic action. So yes, dream, but dreams I believe only matter to the individual. create a plan so that it can start mattering to other people,
Mhm.
and goals so that we can all start working on them together. Those are two different things.
So you are a wordsmith, you're a poet. So given
That's
that,
where
and I love it.
the hopeless aspirations came from. That was actually a quote from TLC.
What'd you say?
I said that was where the hopeless aspiration came from. That was a quote from TLC Waterfalls.
Mhm. So if you, as a wordsmith, as a poet, had to describe yourself in a few words, what would you say?
Clever, understanding, abstract.
Good words. So I wanted to ask you if you have any poems or story or song lyrics or anything you'd like to share with us.
I could. I don't know how the audio would work on this if you can hear the audio and the word, but I can perform it as a poem. I said I could perform it as a poem. Is that okay?
Oh, that'd be perfect.
Okay. All right. I call this Superheroes. It's in time for Mother's Day, so happy extended Mother's Day.
Thank you.
When you ask me to think of my favorite superhero, my mind will go back to the days you called Skid Row, Saturday mornings, hot stove, no cartoons and Cheerios, waking up from family night, using my brother as a pillow. No, I don't think about Captain America's or Superman's. You can. No offense to them, I'm just not a fantasy fan. Real life, man, that's when my memories began. All the rides to Auntie Shirley's in the van so you could go be Superwoman, carrying all the things our father couldn't. Overworked and underpaid, but who hustled like there was two of them? My mom. See, I know that's where I get my strength from. That's why I hustled double time to be all she couldn't become, not the victim. A role she never ever got accustomed. Even when she couldn't determine where our source of income would come from, she made a kingdom from some. Shack in the slum, defying systems led by wisdom, always got her job done. Despite how all the villains cheated, she never crumbled down from the way that she was treated. Never quit even when she could have barely succeeded. If you needed repeated, my superhero's undefeated. Scratched and bruised, but the mission was completed. She was bleeding, though I heard my mother praying for the power, the will to keep her family staying strong against those powers that do not stop praying. On God's children everywhere, like every single day. And I want to say that, yes, we have had our good time and our share of hurt. Up from the dirt, life in reverse. Nothing can get better until it's worse, right? And even though my situations told me to be hateful, like I listened to my mother, she kept it faithful like the porch light. You've got shelter, you're living, breathing, and able. It takes a whole lot less out of yourself to be grateful. Let your last reaction be to cry about things first. Who was looking out for blessings, the lowest of our worst. So that's why when you ask me to think of my favorite superhero, my mind will go back to the days you called Skid Row. Who provided what I needed when the balance summed to zero? Won't have to look up high to see her flying when the wind blows. And while you're thinking about Captain America and Green Lantern, I'll be thinking of that queen by day, a black woman, and a Sunday. That was the plan to get you to see, to understand that I is the way I am because I've seen my mom beat Superman. Because, oh yeah, yes, the whoopings hurt when I got too big for my britches, when she had to remind me just who Clark Kent is. But she prayed afterwards, saying, baby, you will get it. And I'm still learning now, like I was holding my purse, but for love and for life. Till after time, I looked around like, Mama, you were right. And though some days I may not like her, my heart will always love her. Carry me to his throne from the gutter. I super thank her, my more than super mother. Now you know. Thank you.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
So, Joe Charley, is a lot of your music very personal and sort of your story?
I would say it's semi-autobiographical.
Okay.
A lot of it does come from my life, but not all of it is directly my story. I'm more of an observer, if anything. So I listen to a lot of people, and then I would imagine myself in the situation, and then I write from that perspective.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So so you've written poetry too. Have you thought about putting out a book of poetry or something like that?
That's the thought. I think what my Yeah, that's the thought.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna turn into gibberish, but that's the thought.
Okay. Yeah. It just sounds like you have a lot of plans going forward.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
So, Joe Charley, I would love it if you would think back over your life and just choose a story from your life to tell us. I think the important thing is it does not have to have a lesson. It doesn't have to be the most important story you've ever told. Just something that when I say, tell me a story from your life, something that pops up. And it can be funny or charming or anything.
Story, a story, a story. Okay, okay. I think I have a story. I'm trying. Okay. Um. Okay. No. See, I know it's kind of difficult when other people are involved because
Right. You don't
it's
want to tell a story that someone else is not going to like.
right, right. Okay, a story. A random story. Does the story have to have like a theme?
Nope. Just be a
Just
story that you think, you know what, this is my story. This is a piece of my life.
well. How about this? Well, actually, oh wow. Okay, a door opened in my head. That's what happened. Okay, I'm an out loud process. So okay, I was in a meeting in 2014. This is when these meetings started, but this was one of the original meetings, and it was with some of my managers, some agents, and we were sitting down trying to think about where to go. So much different experience, so many different things under my belt, but no, but nothing for me, if that makes any sense. So we were thinking, what's next? And in my head, I'm thinking music because I've always wanted to do that. That's always been it. And if you ask anyone in my family, we used to, and this is kind of the story. This is what I told them is that I remember very vividly elementary school and middle school, right around the time that my family as a whole stopped performing, is when I used to go to my mom's printer and I used to take all the printer paper. I was that kid. I was known for taking all the printer paper because I would handwrite all of the programs, what everybody would be doing. I would decorate them all the same and I would make them at the same time. Printers weren't really a thing and I had nothing else to do, so I thought it was fun. But I would get my ruler and my crayon sets and I would make programs. They would all look the same, programs for an event. And it was so confusing to them, but I knew in my head what the vision was.
Hmm.
The programs were done and everyone's name was in there and they just saw that they were doing something at some time and they just were confused and they were signed up for things they had never agreed to do. I asked my mom, could we go to the store? We went to the store, we bought food, we bought a plethora of food and different snacks. I asked her if she can invite people to the house. She invited people to the house, and what she didn't know was that on the other side, I had been working with my brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, and I was teaching them songs. I used to find like instrumentals online, and I would write whole songs to them.
Hmm.
I would teach them the song that was in my head, but not only I would teach them the song, I would teach them dances with the song. They never agreed to do any of this, by the way. This was all forced. That's all I know is love, though, because yeah, this is the memory that I had. I would teach them the song, I would teach them the dances, I would find their outfits, put it all together, And it was one of them, but there was two of them, there was three of them, so it was a show. To me, I knew there was going to be more than one, but they didn't all know that they were all doing something else. So all came together, and everyone came. They all got their programs, and it all made sense. I remember my brother looked at me. He was like, "Wow, you saw this?" And I was like, "Yeah." It was so simple to me, but I was like, it took weeks. It wasn't like a day. It took weeks. It took time. But I just remember him looking at me like, "Wow." So, like, yeah, I saw the dancing, I saw the singing, I saw kind of the reactions. But seeing the real reactions kind of made me plan for, the next events.
Mm-hmm.
So I gauged that, but I was thinking like, yeah, I saw the picture though. Like in my head, like you couldn't see the picture. And yeah, I didn't know that that was a visionary at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I will always remember that's how I spent my childhood. Like some kids play basketball all day, all night. Some kids play video games all day,
Mm-hmm.
creating. If I wasn't singing, I was teaching someone else too. If I wasn't dancing, I was showing them. I was writing songs. Like I was always creating or performing.
So, Joe Charley, you started the story by talking about sitting with your agents and managers.
Yeah. So
So,
I mean, I guess that was an interesting segue into the real estate.
so when you were sitting with your agents and managers, were you thinking about this past of yours?
Yes,
Okay.
because we had to also name the project, and the name of the project I've officially announced it, but the name of my first project will be Rudolph because
Okay,
that's
what?
Rudolph,
Rudolph?
like the red-nosed reindeer.
Okay, okay.
In it's not literal terms though, so not red nose, but more so
Right.
meaning. And I think that's what it feels like growing up in Minnesota.
Well, I have to say, Joe Charley, that I can't wait to see what comes next for you.
Thank you.
Because given your creativity and your ability to, well, first of all, your creativity, but secondly, your ability to lead your family down whatever path you chose, I think that's pretty awesome. And it speaks to an incredibly creative, well organized process.
Thank you. It sounds different hearing it out loud, but thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm writing this down. Okay.
Well, it feels to me like you are able to see the big picture, but also to manage the details.
Definitely. I've realized that the details bore me as an adult, but I can if I
But
have
you
to.
can do it.
Yes.
So I can't wait to see what's next for you. Do you have a timeline in mind for the songs, or are you sort of just playing it out?
I did, but now I have to play it by ear.
Okay.
I definitely did, but hopefully when things reopen, we can get back to schedule.
Okay.
But it was hope the end of the year what I'm
Okay.
anticipating.
All right.
Antici-
And are you thinking of, are you recording a CD? Is that the plan?
yes, so recorded music is my next step.
Okay. And then ideally, do you have a place where you'd like to do it, like a CD launch, that kind of thing?
A place you said?
Yeah.
A place to do it. I haven't had one in mind.
Okay.
I thought about like Rudolph's at the bar. I don't know if you know the bar on the south side of Minneapolis.
But I think it closed.
Definitely did, and I didn't. I feel like I just wasn't fast enough. But I had to give it some time. But no, I don't have a place.
Okay. All right. Well, we will be watching for that and make sure you share it with us so we can share it with everybody else. Anything else that you want to talk about before we end the podcast?
I think that's it. Thank you for having. It's nice to
This
be
has
able to
been
talk.
such a pleasure. You will show up in our marketing. We have some great photos of you, so thank you for that. And I am, again, looking really forward to what comes next for you and kind of watching your trajectory.
Thank you. I'll definitely keep you noted because I need as much support as I can get.
Joe Charley, the film that you were in, Boys Cry, is that available anywhere? Do you know?
It's available in Amazon Prime. That was the latest big
Okay,
release.
okay,
It might be different streaming services, but streaming is taking over. So I don't know about streaming, but Amazon Prime, definitely.
okay. Well, that's really good to know. So I will check it out. Again, thank you so much. It has been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody.
Talk to you soon.